6 under relay, line position location is 16,000 line screens, high center interference, and perceptions over pi. Directing modification, screen lines, adaptation surface. Retriangulate point line centers, high calculation of setting and rotation surface. The correlation lines of the team line center is now in 16,000 line. Okay, future adaptation real time in memory. Now that puts all lines at set location in line condition to your throat now. Your throat pattern is now in line signals in set locations. So it's more an identification to in and out in audio. So you really do have to be cautious what you do now with your thoughts, because it has a line communication setting and set locations. I'm speaking to you in a line setting in a different frequency to everybody else all at once, but you understand the volume, the vast, the velocity, and acceleration of Mach to be very cautious. What you say here is what you say here, different, right? So you have to find the balance of that, okay? So when I'm speaking through you guys, I'm speaking something different up here in space, but it's through the mind. See, the mind itself isn't thoughts, okay? It just is, which means it's going too fast. So in that set location line condition, it's nothing but harmonics, right? It's just harmonics, right? That's just, it comes in line conditions of reverberation, and line conditions start with the radio signals, alpha lines, delta, theta, omega, zeta, gamma, radiation, formation screens, direct line cycles, high calculations, unifications, ultraline spins, direct lines of all line rotation cycles. That's what you're going to get in the mind now. But you have to understand the balance of what you're coming into in location setting, because it's coming from planets now, because they understand where you are. You're in, out, and audio. You're in your throat now, and you're picking up vibrations. So everything you say, intelligence is listening to everything you hear. They listen here now because you're in that audio line screen, right? So I'm talking to you in a provision line cycles, and line communications are going by in the mind line, which is a different conversation line condition of space and all, and that's lines of seconds, minutes, and hours, hours, and minutes, and seconds through position location of power recognition. Sending position travel. Line signals, high calculation. Interference, position, and travel. High line center, high interference. See? I'm speaking to you, but that's what I'm hearing. Right? And that's not coming from you, that's coming from them. So we have to understand how to balance this all out now, guys. It's not just your polarities you're dealing with now. You guys are in your macros. You got your alpha, mega, micro, macro now. You're in position coming out of structure. It's going to get very confusing if you don't understand the mind adaptation of balance. Your awareness and consciousness is kicking on so many lines of volume now, because now you're on in, out, and audio. And they respond very, very fast. They listen to everything that you say. But as soon as you get in tension, you better know what you're doing, because it will come back to you in response. Okay? So you have to really, that's exactly what it is, Jess. So again, I'm speaking to you at different levels all at once, but you have to understand the mind itself has its own space, and you're picking in the audio, you're picking up the in and the out, right? So here's a rain shower. Right? So that's what I'm picking up, but I'm communicating with you. You can't pick that up until you understand your planets of sounds, your vibrations of sounds, the correlation line centers of sounds, the adaptations of sounds, the algorithms of sounds, everything through audio. And that's what the team is coming into. Everything is sound, okay? But you have to separate that, because you're in earth space, mind space of empty space now. Let me say that again. Earth space, mind space, empty space. Earth space, mind space, empty space. Okay? So when I'm speaking in any line setting, that's coming in right away, right? So you have to balance that out now, because you're looking at two conversions of set lines of communications, right? Right? It's a constant flow, constant flow, constant flow, constant flow. So you got to get balance with that. You got to get balance with the space. You got to get balance with modulation. You got to get balance with Earth as space, not Earth as set locations, rotation cycles of the physical alignment now. You're out of that equation. You're coming out of structure. You're coming into macro, right? The mind lines of its awareness of consciousness, macro. Mind, awareness, consciousness. Congratulations, team. You're in your macros. Now, getting conscious line screens is a more levels of awareness line setting. Really understand how to adapt the cycles to that location system, especially when you're driving. All right. So when you're speaking in sign line connection settings, everything is picking up audio in and out of everything locations. You get an XT1000 go by in traction, right? You're going to pick that up. That's in the mind line settings, but you're talking in a different level in set locations, right? Or reverberation channels, correlation lines of lights in track location and travel line centers, okay? So it's really understanding the adaptations of cycles and generation screens and high center interference in process, in track location, and derision, right? Setting correlation lines of traction, right? Center correlation settings, high interference and fusion. Waving line cycles coming by line connection. Right? There's so many ways of looking at things, right? But the setting lines of communication is understanding the programs, how it sends lines of communication to its all almost its operating system to your mystical cortex of design now. Okay. So the more you connect with your line cycles and high travels and directification your settings, because you're now in 16,000 years in future adaptation lines of the system, you have to understand how to do longitude and latitude. Longitude, latitude. Okay. Sets lines of high interference into brackets, into hanger, and set location. Okay, that's the difference. Bracket and hanger. All right. Hanger cross lines of 1, track location lines level D, set locations in sector, line connections of quad, and set location. Okay, that's the hanger. All right. Planet rotates 1 cycle, line center location of Jupiter, and line rotations in Mercury, and line set locations in Pluto, and set location. Okay, so picking up audio line waves and line centers, the alpha, delta, and theta. So we got an alpha line, we got a delta, and we got a theta communication, right? Signature lines set lines into 3 line cycles and set location, right? Bracket interference, 0 gravity 1 line cycles, high calculation lines of Jupiter, setting 2 lines of tether and line rotation of the 3 set location of cycles, all through bracket of 0, 1 and line settings of 0, 1 position of travel. So you guys really have to understand how this all works in your position of travel communications, all levels of generation screens, okay? Gets you in a adaptation cycle, generates the systems and travel, point lines of center interference, puts all communications back into your set locations and your settings, all through recognition, right? So you have to really understand how this all works in line connection, your travel line connection settings to your energetic wave patterns or any location you're in and out in your audio line cycles. Directing lines of communication is understanding of letters, numbers, shapes that come to you in information screen locations. So it's kind of like you have to get into the mind, into the space, and set locations. Mind is space, right? Sets, locations, and calculations setting. Equal line calculations. What's above and what's below, right? But you're working with this line connection setting to travel now in directions. All levels of direction setting. Okay, you know are no longer north, west, south, and east. You guys are in north, you're in east, you're in west, and you're in south line in line connection setting. So you're northwest, east, south, west, east, and southwest. Okay, so you go into higher line calculation setting, the center core setting line connection your system and travel. Okay, more time centers and non-line center interference, putting your position lines to its correlation setting attractions, right? Directing lines of you in the center and rotation cycles, audio interference, inner lines, interlocks, interchange, intervalves, interline rotation cycles. Directing lines of calculation line connections of platforms, sets lines of 3 lines of 4 track location. Draw position of point lines of centers in all calculation. Okay, so coming out of structure, guys, because you're in your line centers of your box and your triangulation and set location. Okay, box, triangulation, triangulation, box. Understand the difference between the two. when it comes into that formations. All right. Your line centers have your male and your female polarities. Balancing the signals is all line communication when it comes into in, out, and audio. And that's all formations and all calculations. So now the team is speaking all at once of past, present, and future all at once. You got 3 signature line screens. Pay attention now. All set location. All right. All right. Generation lines, which is the second generation line set location settings, going to put you in a high calculation, your 25,000 cycle. 3 line centers and 3 set locations and settings: bracket interference, hanger line rotation cycles, and traffication and provision. Okay. 2 line cycles: energized line screen interference, 2 lines of pi, 5 lines of measure, and 3 lines of tracks, and 4 in correlation. Okay, so you have to understand how to use your solar sails, guys, in its applications, right? So if you want to communicate with line centers of Jupiter or anything through Neptune or anything through Mercury or anything through all platforms of Uranus and set line condition settings, you have to understand the balanced position of travel lines and 4 line rotation cycles. Okay, direct lines, modification lines at alpha, sets correlation lines at delta, and theta. You're always in alpha, delta, theta. Okay, always. Okay, so that's the Earth is space, not the Earth of grounds. Earth is space is alpha, delta, theta. The Earth of grounds is alpha, bravo. So I want you guys to really understand how this all works in your provision cycles. When you understand lines of your in and out in your audio cycle, location in your throat, where it speaks in so many volumes and set location, acceleration of Mach. You guys are coming in more lines of planetary line screens and set locations to your systems and all levels of travel calculation of point centers. Okay? So does that help you out? All track location. You connect through a 4-line screen, graph calculation of 45-degree angle, crosses line calculation setting into your holograms. Right? Sets lines of point lines of centers of zeros, zeros, and zeros, and 1 set location. Or you got a triangulation lines to a box, or you got a percentage over line set locations, or you got affinity 8. You got center lines of 7, 6 lines of 5, 5 lines of 4, 4 lines of 3, and 3 lines of 2. Okay? So what you're doing is just setting schematics of pi and in and out and audio signals and set location. All right. All right. So I think we're getting a better understanding how to use the brackets and hangers now, right? To understand your planetary surface location has a line communication setting to its platforms. To understand how to identify line screen locations. All right. So in that position, you come into this process and knowing how to use that. How to understand the position of brackets and hangers, like it's just planets of alpha, delta, and theta, right? So you're in essential line condition setting the box frame and TV frames and 2 lacing lines of 3-line rotations. So you guys are going through TV frames now instead of location of travel. Okay. So you're coming into more modification line screens now and travel communications, right? Set lines and line condition setting coming out of the cerebral into the mystical cortex design line and set locations. Waving cycles and the center lines of panel line rotation cycles and traffications of audio lines. Mechanism line rotation line cycles, line condition setting a center communication. Directed modification lines of center line centers in line rotation surface and set locations and crop circles and set locations, right? So wherever you're doing, wherever you're going, in, out, and audio is now in provision. So every time you're walking 12 steps, okay, you're going to hear portals. So you have to understand on a 12 clocking system, you guys already know that calculation, which is no longer a 24, it's a 25 clocking system. So not only are you going to see the portal, but you're actually going to pick up the sound barrier. You're going to pick up the right? So has a reverberation channel, line setting high, calculation line position as program. You're in and out, and your audios are now in sync. Okay, so using the past, present, future, and all calculation line screens, you have to be very cautious what you do through adaptation line cycles when you're going through a 12-line screen line of rotations, portals, or stargates and set locations of wormholes. You're actually going to see yourself going into a wormhole, but you're going to hear the wormhole. Okay, you're going to hear the 60,000s. You're going to hear the planets. You're going to hear the moderations. You're going to hear the Remember I did videos on that line condition setting. I'm just talking to you. Both hands are up and you're hearing, right? That is your sim. The sim has to know where it's in its own space. And there's all lines of communications where it does everything all by itself. You don't do anything. You attract everything. But the difference now is that when you are speaking and co-creating thoughts, it's in and out in audio now. So it's in a full intelligence lines of an altered state of its mind that can create its own ego, of its own system location, of its own truth narrative, its own false narrative line rotation cycles. So you have to be very careful of what you do and through connections. Listening to everything. When you're speaking to somebody, you're speaking differently in space, right? But it's all it's trying to communicate with you. You can't ignore that, right? So these are the things that you got to get balanced with, which is mind, and then empty of the space is the mind of its system. So that's what it is, emptying the minds, guys. Okay, that's what you have to do, because if you don't empty the minds and you clutter your system locations, you're communicating with everybody in line condition setting, but you're off calculation. You don't know what's going on with the mind. You don't know what's going on with the soul. You don't know what's going on with the body. You don't know what's going on with the heart. You don't know what's going on with space. You don't know what's going on with time, right? You've got to get balanced with that now, because you're an in, out, and audio in 3 centers. Okay? So, again, knowing exactly where you are in line setting and set locations, this is you. A set of reverberation line screen. All right? So every time you speak, volumes, right? Waves, center lines of communication, sets out tone, right? It hits the planets and set location. It hits the planets and set location. It hits the planets and set location. You understand that? Every time you speak, seconds, minutes, and hours, minutes, and seconds. Hours, minutes, and seconds is center. Space and lines is seconds, minutes, and hours. Line connection is settings and travel. The set locations. Okay? So, be very cautious of what you're doing now when you speak, because you're picking up things in so many line connections. You pick up the grounds. You pick up the chairs. You pick up the dimensional walls. You pick up the dimensional lights. You pick up fractals, line setting screens. You pick up atom line rotation cycles. You pick up wire line circuits. You pick up dimensional line center interference. You pick up all lines of tables. You pick up the ground line center interference. You pick up information to your shirt, your pants, your glasses, your hair, your beard, your nose, your eyes, your ears. You pick up everything. Audio. Very fast, very quick. And you got to get balanced with that in set locations. Plus also get balanced with the mind, which has to be empty space. If I'm speaking to you in all levels of volume, I'm speaking to you at a different frequency. So you understand it's the connection. I'm not connecting to everybody at the same frequency. You're at different frequencies. Okay, so I know how to reach every one of you through flux capacitor. And that's another thing you got to get balanced with. But you got to get balanced with the mind of its empty space now, because in location setting of your planets now, they're going to respond to you through all levels of intent. You've got to get that balance. Okay, again, when I'm speaking, things are going by. Orbs are coming in. Right? It's going through my screen, but I'm still communicating with you. Okay? Floater division line screen. Right? In your universe, in your frame, in real time of memory. Okay? You're going to see it in front view. Okay? So you can't be distracted. Right? You can't say, oh, don't worry about it. I'm just talking to a blended screen line center location. What were you saying? So you can't ignore these things now, because the mind itself has to be empty through space. And that's what it's all about. You can't have clutter up here anymore. You have to really get into your scanning, especially with the team. You guys are no longer in line center locations of box triangulation. Congratulations. Congratulations. But this is just the beginning for you. You have to understand the position line calculation to its foreground, to understand its background, to understand its center ground and communication lines at all levels of line rotation cycles of yin and yang. Then you understand the process of location coming to infinity 8. Then you understand the rotation cycles of center calculation. Then you understand the platforms of communication of its program. Okay? So, wow, it's incredible what we're all coming into now. But species are just coming in digital lines of imagings, trying to get into comfortability, their habitation zones, and location where they are, interactions. If you get a planet rotation cycles in a 3-line provision, all right? So line setting, here's the Earth. Earth line rotation, track communication setting and travels. That's the Earth, right? Directing lines modification, sonar, and set location, right? Sending up vibrational lines, wires, alpha, delta, theta, 3-line signals, all right? Sending out the vibrational graphs. XC1000s come in, and set locations, right? 3-line signals and set lines, calculation screen lines, right? Coming out of modifications of the moon. Moon sets lines of tone line rotation cycles and generation screen locations. So Earth has a line rotation cycle, generates the screen locations and high adaptation lines. This is your Earth, that is your Earth. What? What does that mean? Earth of grounds, Earth of space. Okay? Changes lines of course, line screen interference into your astral projections of travels, guys. You have to really identify these line screens. You have Earth of grounds, now you have Earth of space. You've got to get balance with that. The audio lines of screen lines, high center, and line rotations, the center locations of the Earth, rotates the cycles and set location. Okay, generates the screen lines, XT1000 scans the lines, the grounds, and the lines of modification screen location. Okay, so there's so many ways of understanding how to travel through the mind lines. The mind lines of its travel location setting sets lines of all calculations screen lines. If you get an X line equals lines of E. Set calculation lines to calculation of 0 and 1 rotation cycle. Right? So this is a binary real-line setting line connects all levels of Pluto. Pluto picks up the X, the L, on-line centers, equal line, E line rotation, equal line position. Sets correlations, tractions. Direction modifications comes in line center location to its Earth ground, line center, line position location to its setting. Okay, look at that, it disappeared. Now you have to truly understand what the Earth is in grounds, which is crop circles. The actual Earth just becomes crop circles, right? So when it's crop circles, it's platitude and line settings and all travel ends communications where you are in calculation. Now, line center locations, your Earth is here now. Okay, the center core line connections, right? Center lines set location of your systems, right? So the team is now in the center core line settings into the empty minus the space now of Earth space. Earth space, ground space. Earth space, ground space, right? So crop circles has a 3-line provision and settings calculations. Goes with signals and a 3-track location line settings. All lines high interference and light signals and travel in line centers and set location. Okay? Complicated, isn't it? Very complicated of what's going on with you and setting, right? So releasing, okay? Releasing all that connection to your settings and all levels of physical alignment of the illusion comes into Earth of space. Okay? Earth is space. So once you understand that, then you understand the mind is space, and then you understand the empty space. That's it. Species just has to really get into modifications of their digital lines of imaging and know exactly how to use it and locations or settings and really get into the thoughts, try to get in that position to its system and tractions. How to really understand how to connect with the mind of its awareness of consciousness and how to really understand the consciousness of everything that you say, everything you touch, everything you do, everything you eat and drink, everything that you watch. You know, it's very important on so many levels of its awareness, of consciousness, of what everybody's coming back to in set locations. Okay, so there's a different line screen. Passing that and line setting high interference, the body itself is now a hologram. So the actual Earth itself is a hologram. It's a foundation graph line that sim is in position of, which is its own simulation game. It lives in its own simulation, but it's Earth is space, not Earth the grounds. There's a reason why you have crop circles, okay, on ground settings, okay? So that's the actual Earth in setting, right? Now, Your provision lines are your sims. You have a higher self ground, you have an avatar ground, and you have a simulation ground. Okay? All through the earth in a 3-line cycles and set location. Travel line centers into 1, 2, 3, and 4-line communication. Solar sail. That's how it's all set up every single time. So your earth rotates, rotates, and rotates. Your earth is never in the same position because it's you that's traveling. So try to understand all this and all lines of communication, how you get in your line communication, your settings of travel, right? So it's you traveling. Now, the mind's traveling. The connection to the heart is in its time setting, okay? The connection of the soul is in its light signals and location system, and everything through its body of its capacitor. So you become the earth of you in space, but you have a ground line, which is your earth grounds of crop circles. That's why there's crop circles on earth and set locations and your perceptions and set calculations. So once you understand that, you can travel your earth any way information. All right. So that's how the planets see you of its earth self and set locations. Crosses, line screens, high center interference, solar sails, and traffications. But the modulation lines has a moderating line screen, sets lines of sonar lines, and 3 lines of 6-line position provision. Sets waving line cycles, high traffications of platforms, and line setting, and all calculation of position of programs. Okay? So it's really interesting when you understand that through tractions, right? Pretty amazing, isn't it? How it all works inside locations. All right? But you guys got to get in your position lines, your earth lines of space now. Because you're no longer in earth lines of grounds. You're in earth of space. Okay? And that's how the planets see you, as the earth, right? Because they have their planets, right? Their planets here, right? Your planet's here. Okay? So direct signal, right? Scan setting, back and set location, scanning back, communicating with each other, right? So you actually become the line send location. You're out of box triangulation now. So you're actually becoming your earth of space. You're creating inside of space now, which is your earth. Your modulation line connections, you're becoming all lines in that position locations of your airs and your waters and your fires, where your particle system separates the settings and set locations into subtronic line setting high interference, the subparticle line rotation cycles, the atoms, the protons, electrons, neutrons, and photons turns into the actual earth of view of space. Okay, so once you get into that, the actual earth, once you understand the balance of its liquidation and its core, and line connection to its course and line position of its travel, it starts recognizing everything through its planet system. And that's how the planets start seeing you, through your earth perceptions of space and no longer of grounds. That's why you have crop circles now. You need the crop circles because those are code signals, line communication, code weaving. That's line connection of routers and routers that sets the modem in position to its moon so it can track its information cycles and all calculation modification. Right? All through line settings of models of teleportation. Okay? So there you go. Right? So congratulations, team. You guys are now the Earth core yourself in space. All right. So again, crop circles. That's why you have crop circles. So crop circles keeps you grounded, keeps you tethered to the earth. Okay. But you're here now. It's that location. Okay. Go into higher lines of communication to higher lines of divisions in all those at different universes and galaxies and planets. Okay. So that's why you have crop circles. You're connected to the elixirs, cosmic flame, and cosmic fire. Cosmic flame. Okay. How to use that in line condition setting your voice line grids. Serpent flame, serpent fire, in, out, audio. Triangulation of line setting, the wires line rotation surface and track location. So when you're sending out signals in line connection setting, you're automatically connecting alpha, delta, and theta right away. In, out, audio. Planet, right? Planet comes in line setting, so it's sonar. You communicate to your voice, interactions, talking about anything, Its allocations. So you're going right? Doesn't matter what you're saying, right? Planet picks it up. Center records its setting line connections. Moderate the system. XD thousands come out. Its application, right? Scan your systems first. Okay? Especially because you're in an audio now. Okay, so it's a lot more different. So you're connecting right away with the planet. The planet itself is scanning you. Right? So what do you want? All right? Sets up sonar. You pick it up in position location. The ground opens up. Right? Planet itself picks up the crop circles. Right? Disintegrates line connection. Another XD1000 comes in. Line setting. Sets position, picks up the crop circles, and set locations, right? You're never going to have a crop circle that looks the same. It's always different shape, always different dimension, always different time, different space. It's the energy line, the correlation lines, the track lines through its division, line cycles, and set locations, all through track division. Okay? All right. So it's powerful stuff what you guys are coming into, right? Because now you understand why there's crop circles on the grounds, right? So you guys can keep in track with each other, so you can connect with each other, because now your center core system is actual the Earth. You blended into your Earth line rotation cycles now. Your particle streamline is now in separation line connections. You are in your eyes and windows of the soul, which is the calculation of its mind, of its awareness, of consciousness. Congratulations, right? But this is just the beginning for the team. You have to really understand how to work with that set location in your settings and travel. And that's how it works. Okay? To this, to this, to this. So your actual Earth ground is all set up in a 12 cycles of crop circles, or 24, or 48, or 72, or 144. At least you have control now. What is it? A router phone. The actual Earth of the ground becomes a router phone. You know, when you put your finger in, that's all your Earth becomes, right? Setting signals in line connection to your cosmic flame, cosmic fire, line connection to elixirs, and the location setting of the serpent flame and serpent fire sets signals in modification. Security line defense, security line defense, security line defense, security line defense. Okay, right away, connecting to Pluto. Okay, now you understand the process of the empty mind, the empty space, and also allocation modifications, your mind of consciousness, and what you're coming in, track locations of through operation. Okay, that's why I got you guys to go through test reviews and evaluations, especially with your electrical systems, a better, deeper core, how to really come into recognition. Now, what do you think about that? Blown away, all right? Right? So they're seeing you now because you're in full signal of in and out in audio. So you're no longer to your system, a Merkaba, Tesser, and Tetra regions. You guys are out. So your actual Earth itself, which is confusing because you're connected to your 5 elements, which is connected to everything in settings. You're no longer connected northwest, south, and east. You're connected in all ways and forms, and a 12 cycle set locations, in a 24,000 line setting, and set location in your settings, in 16,000 lines of air and future adaptations at real time and memory location. All right, so so if you're 16,000 line screens, what is happening with the connection system? You understand what that is in teleportation, where you have the Earth information. So if your Earth information's here, that's line centers and line connection settings, right? Setting communication travels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 line rotations, right? See that set location line connections? Your Earth is here in communication. 1, 2, 3 position lines of 4 set locations, right? So that's your Earth traveling to the next lines of destination. Okay? So you keep a track of your Earth, which is a router phone, right? It's your teleportation number that sets lines of tracking device, lines, high interference into transitions over pi and line rotation cycles and location and cerebral cortex lines of design that puts you in the mystical cortex line calculation setting and travel calculations and all point line tracks. Okay? So now you understand why there's crop circles and why you have to understand the connections to its Earth, right? So your Earth is now in space, the actual Earth. And that's how planets see you now, because you're in, out, and audio. Okay? Past, present, and future now. So the Earth has its own sound tone in set locations. Let's go through the line of rotation. There's your Earth. Okay. That's your Earth. Right? So every time you speak, it's like this. Okay? It's like this all at once in all directions, guys. All directions, all at once. Boom. So every time you speak, XT1000s come out right away in setting. Boom. Right? You're speaking, right? They scan you, identify you, who you are first, in set location. Now, what you get in that line condition setting, in set locations, confirmation go, we're in line condition, their chips are ready to go. If they're line communication stargates, copy that, verified. So that's what it is. It's that's the mind. Okay. So when I'm speaking, that's the mind, right? Speaking, Earth, mind. Speaking, Earth, mind, right? So that's the balance you guys need to get. That's the verification that you're getting in line set location, your settings, attractions. So you're getting response back from that, right? Me speaking to you is a vibration to its Earth that routers the system to your corrupt circles, that puts you in program line settings to your position in set location, your hours, minutes, and seconds, minutes, and hours, and traction. How you go into that line communication, it's all levels of you through verification, so confirmation. Very powerful stuff. Okay, so when I'm speaking, it's responding, and it responds back. Got that, copy that, verify it, right? So that's what you got to get balanced with now. The empty mind, the empty space, reverse space, okay? And also applications. All right, so sending line communication line settings, high interference, intention line connection, you want to connect with Jupiter. There's Jupiter right here in line position, right away. It's not in your sector, it's not in your vector, it's not in its quad. It's on its own universal line screen. It's in its own coordinates and longitude and latitude. But as soon as you add intent, it's there for you right away. And another XT1000 comes in because it's protecting the planets. And again, it's going to scan you in set locations and setting again and again. Okay? Every planet has its own planet of protection. So if it doesn't recognize you, what does it do? It puts up its fields. Puts up its fields if it doesn't recognize you. You understand? So how do you think about that? It's all set location, how that all works through in and out and audio is set design. Okay? I know you guys are mind blown. Okay? So you come into your air, water, and fire. So what that works now in space line in communication settings, you guys are no modulating screen interference and box triangulation. Okay? You're out of structures of design because you're holograms now. So now all you got to do is morph in your perception screen lines to your face recognition time sequence in your alignments of hours, minutes, and seconds, minutes, and hours in cell locations. All right. So 25,000 line cycle, again, 3 line cycles, line condition setting. Setting correlates lines attractions and 3 provision. Okay. 3 lines tractions, 1, 2, and 3. Your Earth, crop circle line setting in set location of 3 tractions. Okay. See how it hits the line screen? Laser goes up in a 3-track line provision. Okay, the elixir, cosmic flame, the cosmic fire, right? Hits lines of highest interference of travel. Okay, to your Earth, rotates the cycles in set location, right? Generates the screen line, sets a solar flare, and line rotation cycles, line condition setting the solar sails and set connections. So putting that line rotation in position line calculation setting to your Earth line rotation surface is all levels of crop circles as set design. We're going to go into deeper core of crop circles, but we got to get you more lines of deeper core of your chakra systems. How it all works now, right? Because this is you. This is your Earth. This is what you're dealing with. You're morphed into your Earth now. Your air, waters, fires, and space. Okay? So you guys are not a configuration yet. You're just the Earth itself, right? And that's how the planets see you now. But you have in and out and audio now. 3 signature line screens and set location line settings. Okay, so you're always going to have connections to your router phones and locations because that's all your Earth is now. It's just a router phone. So it's a high-tech line screen interference, has a tracking device and line set location in your settings. So once it recognizes you in platform, if you go into 25,000 cycles, line set location, it knows exactly where you are in 16,000 air. But the provisional line location sets 4 lines of tractions, puts lines in provisional line cycles, directing lines communications, opens up the stargates, in line rotation cycles, and high center interference. That puts all communication setting, all line rotations, 3 intention. Now that intention could be line 1, 2, and 3 line communication to 4 and track location. Now directing modification lines opens another portal in line signal, in line rotation surface and track location. Okay? So it's really impressive once you really understand what it is in all calculations now, right? Because it's going to be very confusing for you because you're now your Earth. So once you understand more levels of that, you understand the grounds, you understand the ripple effects, you understand seismic activities and locations and setting, the symmetry, and the synergies and how it all connects to your system applications, especially in a 13-line wave and a 4-line triangle, right? 13-line communication higher itself and a 4-line rotation. 13 communication line screens, high center interference, a 4 division. 13 lines of clocking and 4 lines, 1-line cycle. 13 line communication line interference, a 4 triangulation reline position of programs. I can go on and on and on and on and on and on what 13 is because it's constantly moving all the time. It's never in the same location. So you have to be very careful now, okay? Because your planet sees you as your Earth itself. And you have an Earth line of a router round line center line interference and modems. It sets lines of communication, ground lines, and Earth line rotations. So understanding the position line calculations, crop circles, lines, green lines, 4 lines, 5, 6, and 7 in set locations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? Elixirs, cosmic flame, serpent flame goes up in track location. Your Earth is here in set locations, right? So you're automatically tethered to the ground. So you're just communicating back to your Earth through a telephone. All right, you're here. You're not here anymore, right? So you set the crop circles on the grounds. It rotates its certification to your settings in high calculated system. So getting that position line center, the actual Earth itself is basically in the position, okay, of real time, which is the central line communication of Earth time, which puts latitude line rotations of 2030 set location. Okay, you understand now what you're coming into? Then you go in the line center to 2045, the actual line connection, 2030. Okay, so you're always communicating with the Earth now and the grounds, but you're now in Earth's space line. Okay, so it's totally different now, and all of the transaction line screening in this application. Okay, more complicated, isn't it? So you have to be very cautious how you communicate to your systems all through space line. Okay, very, very complicated. Okay. Shit is going okay. It's like, what do I have to do now? Just pay attention and listen. All right, so when you get to that point, you understand what your Earth is doing now. The actual Earth is morphing on its own, so it's an illumination graph line. It's in the macro line division line, so you're in the alpha, mega, micro, macro now, and that's how the planet sees you as the Earth itself, right? But now you have to understand why you have the Earth ground and why you have to have the crop circles. That's your tracking device. They keep aware of where you are in line setting. That puts you in adaptation lines and Earth line rotation cycles in the now, minutes and seconds, puts you in 2030, a set design. But your Earth line position of space or where you are through simulation in 16,000 years in the future. It's set design. That's what it is. Very powerful stuff. All right, so you're in the center operation of you. This is what it comes in information. This is you. All right, that's you, right? But this is in settings. You had crop circles on the ground. So it comes a router phone. Okay, in its applications, right? So you're no longer here anymore. You're here. So the actual Earth and ground line setting is an adaptation of balance in its applications. Hours, minutes, and seconds now. Okay. But the actual lines of space line is you and travel anywhere you want to go. Anywhere you want to go. Anywhere you want to go. Anywhere you want to go in set location. Okay. So you're always in communications with your Earth and set line connection. Very, very powerful stuff. Okay. Earth line rotation of the now, 2030. But your line settings and your universe line screen line condition setting is 16,000 years in the future of the now, real time. Okay? That's how you keep in contact with Earth grounds and the Earth is space of the mind space of empty space, people. Okay? Very, very powerful. Okay? All right. I think we're getting a little bit more understanding now, right? Because you're out of structured design now. You're in the alpha, omega, micro, macro, right? So it's the mind, it's the awareness of consciousness that you guys are in. Congratulations. Right? That's it. We're done. So obviously you guys have a lot of questions. You got to get balanced with all calculation line screens to really understand you. Okay? Try to imagine. Imagination is no longer imagination. You're in your phenomenons now. You have to really understand how to use your alpha, omega, micro, and macro. Okay, so you have to really understand the settings and where you are in all timelines all at once. Every time you speak, you're in past, present, and future, and that combines into one. That tweaks the system. That center lines is communication rotation. Okay. Understanding your binaries now on more line settings. So we're going to go to a deeper core electrical system, but we're going to go into mapping sequence and line settings because you guys are coming in adaptation line screen interference of 7 million frames per screen in mapping line set locations. So what that means, your position, your chakras are going to turn into planets. Soul line screens, solar generation line connection. How to modify that is all through fabrics of space in set locations. Okay? So species just basically have to get into their digital imaging, their mind of consciousness, and everything through adaptation of their soul. And try to get out of the illusion of the physical line connections of its alignment. Okay, this is the line center interference that you have to release and let yourself go, knowing where you're going to be is where you're going to be in that line setting and set locations. You're coming back to who you are, and that's where you're going. Right? It's setting line connection to your awareness of consciously aware of where you are. You're already there, which is amazing. You don't do anything. You're already there. You're just not consciously aware yet. So it's the physical alignment that you have to detach from. And once you detach from that, you start to connect. You start to understand the spiritual adaptation of you. You understand the spiritual worlds of you. You understand the spiritual mind of travels of you. You understand the spiritual modifications of you, modulations of you. Okay? The calculations of you, the volumes of you, the vast, the acceleration, the Mach of you. You really start to see the formations of you, of who you are in set location. Okay? All right. See you guys in 5. Adios.